This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
And welcome to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And, we got a lot to get to today, Matt, because
yeah,
I thought we were going to do a show on Friday, and we were told, nay. We're not doing a show on Friday.
This is the end of the road.
This is it. So
predictions and
picks and all kinds of stuff.
Injuries and labs and DFS and et cetera, et cetera,
Everything.
et cetera.
Everything.
Squash it all in.
So here's what we know right now.
Okay.
On Wednesday, because we don't do a show.
It's a Wednesday,
yeah.
right?
And as Alex Highsmith said earlier in the week, he said, I won't know for sure whether I'm playing until I see what I can do in practice on Thursday and Friday.
Sure. That's
so
how it works, right?
He did not practice today.
Okay. So that's
Lo
what
and
we
behold,
know.
Corey Trice, a full participant, and the Steelers did activate and open the window for Montrevious Adams.
That's exciting. That's great news. I'm excited about him and Trice in particular.
Yeah. So some other guys held up, but it was resting stuff.
Yeah.
Sam Malu, Hayward, Ogunjobi.
So you don't even have a hunch on Highsmith. I mean, I knew he was optimistic last time we saw him, but
said he feels good.
Right, right.
What more can we say about it? I don't know. It's
and coincidentally, we don't know who the Bengals left tackle is going to be either.
No, we do not know that.
There's a big difference between Orlando Brown and Cody Ford.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. Not a big difference. They're both big human beings.
Yeah, but one's a stumpy guard type. Not very good at
the
tackle.
other one's a stumpy tackle type.
Gigantic human being,
yeah.
Right.
But that's where we're at this point. We do know that, the Bengals are banged up in their secondary in a big way.
Yeah. Some guys they count on, some young guys with talent.
That aren't going to be available. And
do we know that for sure? Dax Hill was the one, and
he's not
and
even
Turner,
on.
He's
on IR.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So yeah, he's not playing, and
both high picks recently.
Yeah, and then the who am I thinking of here? DJ Turner was the other one.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, Hill's on IR.
Yeah,
Turner's the other one. Yeah,
Turner just went to IR.
Oh, they're both on IR.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
Turner
okay.
broke his collarbone in the game against the Chargers.
Okay. Both young guys they've been counting on. They haven't quite lived up to it, but they're top picks.
All we know is that these other guys, and these are estimations from ESPN.
They're coming off a bye, too.
Yeah. Orlando Brown is questionable. Okay. Sheldon Rankin's questionable.
He's a starter, though,
yeah.
in a weak unit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's what they're looking at. But, yeah.
Brown hasn't played in three games, but they are coming off a bye, so it's been a month he's missed.
The guys that they want to be playing at cornerback are Turner and Hill.
Yes, 100%.
And they don't have either one of them.
Now turned corner,
yeah.
Right.
They don't have either one of them. So it's Cam Taylor-Britt.
He's really fallen off.
Is not good.
No. A year ago, I thought he had promise and showing some stuff.
He's got some size.
Yeah,
He's a former safety turned,
AFC North type corner. He's been getting burned a lot.
Yeah.
Hilton's still fine, but he's never been a great cover guy.
But he's not.
he's more
he's
of
a specific.
player.
Yeah, he's a specific kind of nickel cornerback.
100%.
And if you're asking him then to cover, because these other guys can't cover, that's not what you want Mike Hilton to do.
And their safety play is average. That's kind, but it's average. They're not great players, even though they've invested in them. All their defensive investments, draft and otherwise, are not working out lately at all.
Yeah,
the last couple of years.
And that's what happens. You're in your window, but just being in the window doesn't make it. You still have to hit on your draft picks.
That's the thing. They've just missed on a ton of defensive draft picks lately, or they haven't yet panned out. Some of them are still young. And then the guys that they did invest in, the Hiltons of the world, when they were building this defense, are now starting to hit the back nine.
Yeah.
As is going to happen, and you haven't found the replacements.
And it's really, they spent a lot of money on their offensive line a couple of years ago. Really didn't fix it.
No. That was a huge offseason priority 2 years ago, even before Brown, before the tackles. They
got tired of seeing Joe Burrow get killed.
Yeah, they went out and got Kappa and, those type of dudes that are a 4 out of 10 starter. You know what I mean? But they were better than the 2 out of 10s that Burrow was getting destroyed with early on. And now they've aged a little bit too. I still think they need offseason O-line help. Go get a center guard in round 2.
They drafted Mims this year.
Yeah, I'm talking about more in the interior.
But even during the draft, when we talked about Mims, it's like you can't expect him to come in and play right away.
And they didn't, because they had two. I mean, he was the third guy on opening day, which was a good plan, except for Jones is always hurt anyways. I mean, the fact that Mims got thrust into action shouldn't shock anybody.
No, not at all. And he's played okay, but
he's actually played well. But I would say the last 2 or 3 weeks, he might be hitting a little bit of a wall too, and people are starting to figure him out a little bit more.
Yeah. Now there's more. You didn't even really have tape on him from college.
No, right.
I mean, he had 8 career starts.
I don't know how many preseason snaps he played or whatever, but he was very much a work in progress.
He didn't play many because he was hurt.
I didn't think hardly any, if at all.
So now you're starting to get an idea of, okay, what this guy can and can't do. And him facing TJ, I wonder.
How much football has he actually played since high school?
Ooh, not much.
Really not that many snaps at all for being as big in talent as he is.
I just wonder how they view this. Do they view this as like, oh, he's been really good, we're going to leave him on the island with TJ Watt?
See, I think if Orlando Brown isn't there, you might not have a whole lot of choice.
Right.
No matter who the other Steeler edge rusher is. I mean, you'd love Highsmith to be there and not Orlando Brown, of course. But if you told me you could take Orlando Brown out of the equation, even up for Highsmith, that's fine with me. I mean, Herbig and Smith are going to cause a lot of problems for Ford.
Yeah.
Ford's bad.
The other thing about this, Matt, is Zach Moss going on IR for them a few weeks ago. They were playing him on third downs.
Yes.
Over Chase Brown.
Yes.
Because Zach Moss was the better guy in protection.
Yeah, he's tough, sturdy, been around the block, older, no question. So they traded for Khalil Herbert.
Right.
Who I've always liked, but he's more of a runner than he is pick up the blitz.
He doesn't do that either.
No. Now, this is a kind of a fantasy note, but the last 3 weeks, Chase Brown is the only running back to touch the ball. I mean, since Moss got hurt, no other player in the backfield has touched the football. He's playing like 85% of the snaps. Now, they're coming off a bye. They might realize that that's unsustainable and Herbert needs to be involved now. He's been around since the trade deadline. But Brown's been good, but he's still pretty young for that much responsibility.
And not the biggest guy either.
No, but he's thick. I mean, I bet he's 210, something like that. I mean,
I'm just talking about as being a protector.
I mean, he's not long.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So, with that in mind, if I'm the Steelers, and the Steelers haven't blitzed a lot.
No, and no one's blitzing the Bengals.
But maybe, just maybe, and it's interesting, Landon Roberts not on the injury report today.
Oh, good. Okay, that was one I kind of forgot about.
Might I send him up the middle a few times to test Mr. Brown?
I think you have to a few times. I was thinking about that, though, from the other side of the equation. And it's so weird. We have to talk about this like it's a Friday show and it's a Wednesday show, but such is life. Adapt and overcome. But I think I would play a lot of cover 2 and not blitz and not play single high and not play man and just keep the wounds to a minimum. And I've been thinking about this a lot. I mean, not embarrassed isn't the right word, but unhappy with the defensive. I bet that defensive line is stewing for 10 days with how they played against the Browns because they know they're better than that. And if I was Tomlin, I would be picking that wound over and over. Like, we're only sending 4 fellas. Can you handle it? Think you guys are up for it this week? I bet they are.
Yeah.
Burrow's a tough guy to sack, though.
He is, but I'm not so much worried about sacking him. I want him to feel it every time he drops back to pass.
Yeah.
I want him to get hit.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's going to have an effect over the course of a game.
Mm-hmm.
If you're hitting him and hitting him and hitting him, he's a tough guy.
Yeah.
He'll stand in the pocket. He'll take the hits. But at some point, you want to, you just got to say, I want him to start feeling the pressure and knowing he's going to get hit again and again and again because nobody likes to be the nail.
He also has 3 or 4 injuries that nobody talks about, but he's had all year. And, I mean, most quarterbacks do. The big thing with me with the cover 2 thing was, though, okay, maybe they're going to run against lighter boxes on me and I'm going to give a 5 yards a carry. Okay, but I think it's more like the Pickens treatment where those 2 guys on the outside are really frightening. And more than ever, they're better after the catch than they've ever been. I mean, I don't want bring the house, 1 missed tackle, and they're doing a dance in the end zone.
That's something that the Steelers have traditionally done against the Bengals. Even if you look back to when it was Chad Johnson and Houshmandzadeh.
They've always had good receivers.
Or
Pickens,
even before that, Pickens and some of the other guys that they had there. the Bengals would always come out early and run the ball well because the Steelers are like, okay, we're just not going to let you go over the top on us here.
Yeah.
And they would run the ball well, and then they would get behind in the second half by a touchdown.
Just a little.
And they would just quit running the football.
Yeah, they have a long history of doing that, no matter who the coach has been. I mean, whether it's Gio Bernard or Rudy Johnson or whoever's carrying the ball.
So you look up at the end of the first quarter, and the Bengals would have 50 yards rushing, and then they'd finish with 70.
I think it's part of the DNA of the team, too. They just don't – they're not the Ravens and Steelers that will just say, I'll just keep doing the same thing if you let me. If you're going to give me 6 yards a carry, I'll hand it off all day long. They get impatient with that.
When you have all those toys –
well, part of it's being the offensive play caller, the head coach, and I'm so creative.
I got to throw the ball to I got to get
Jamar. We practiced.
How can we not throw the ball to Jamar Chase?
Right.
How can we not throw the ball to T. Higgins?
I'm sitting here looking at my cheesecake menu, play sheet, and I haven't called any of these. These are so good. Just wait till I unleash them.
Spent all week drawing up these plays. I got to use them.
The Tomlins and Harbaughs of the world, throw that stuff away. We're on the ball. We're running power.
Yeah. And so I look at this game, and to me, I think the Steelers are going to move the football consistently.
I do too. Everybody does.
They've moved even when they haven't scored necessarily.
Right. They've gotten to the red zone a lot.
They've gotten to the red zone a lot. They've moved the football consistently, especially with Russell Wilson at quarterback. There've been a play here or a play there that maybe pushed them back into some bad situations. So you got to avoid those.
Yeah.
That would be the sacks, but you're not against this team. Are they going to sack the quarterback?
Hendrickson is fearsome. I mean, he's not Garrett Watt level, but he isn't far off. I mean, his production is right there with those guys. I mean, his tape isn't as good as those dudes, but his production's really as good as anyone. And it's mind-boggling how he is the only show in town with their pass rush. I mean, there's some obscene numbers about percentage of sacks coming from one player. Even since he got to Cincinnati, let alone this year, no one else has more than 2 sacks on the team, and he's the sack leader. So it's real easy for you and I to sit here on a Wednesday and say, well, just don't let that guy beat you. Well, don't you think the team before this
Here's
did
the thing,
that?
though,
And the
Matt.
team before that did that,
He's got 11.5 sacks, which leads the league. He had 4 sacks against the Raiders. He had a 2-sack game against Cleveland when Cleveland was shuffling
tackles,
offensive tackles. That's right. And it was Deshaun Watson at quarterback. He also had a 2-sack game against the Giants after they lost Neal.
Post Thomas.
So 8 of his sacks have come.
That was against Thomas, I think. I remember watching that game.
He got hurt.
He might have got hurt in the game.
He got hurt.
That's a really good battle.
He played through it.
And they just totally let them on an island. Yeah. And that was a big featured matchup.
But if you remember,
and that was kind of a draw.
He hurt the foot in the game and played through it
and hobbled through it. And then the second half belonged to Hendrickson.
Yeah.
I do remember that. Yeah.
I'm sorry. He has three 2-sack games.
Okay.
So but
he's feasting on the bad teams, right?
Of his 11.5 sacks, 10 have come in over 4 games. Everybody else has kind of neutralized him.
Yeah.
If you double him, he had a half a sack against the Chargers. He had 1 sack against Washington. He had 2 sacks against Kansas City in week 2. 2 sacks against the Giants, 2 sacks against Cleveland, 4 against the Raiders. So it's not been a situation where he's when he's been good, he's been really good.
Yeah.
But he's taken advantage of some bad matchups.
So I have mixed feelings on that because he's also leading the league in quarterback knockdowns. He has 24 of them. I don't know where they're spaced
if he does that.
out.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if they're 2 a game, all in one game.
Well, I can tell you that.
I didn't know where you find knockouts per game.
He had 7 quarterback hits against the Raiders in the game that he had 4 sacks.
All right, pause there.
Yes.
Because when you said that before, I'm sitting here thinking, come on, Raiders. I mean, can't you help? I mean, that is malpractice. After 2 sacks or 3 sacks, if you're going to leave Colton Miller, who's their best guy.
That's your fault.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Right.
He had 5 knockdowns in the game against Cleveland. So he also had 2 sacks in that game. So that's
and a sack equals a knockdown, too. So
that's 12 of his knockdowns have come in those 2 games.
Yeah.
He had 3 in the game against the Giants. So now we're up to 15 of the knockdowns. He also had 3 against Kansas City. So that's 18 of those knockdowns have come in those games when he has had a bunch of
good
sacks.
Games, yeah. I mean, that makes sense because a sack counts as both.
So you can negate this guy if you designate, hey, we're not going to let this guy beat us.
And what's interesting is they will move him, but much less than Garrett or some of the other top pass rushers.
He's always on the left side.
He's going to go against Dan Moore. So I think I would have Washington on Dan Moore's side almost every snap.
At the very least, I've got the running back over there, whether that be Jaylen Warren or Najee Harris.
But there's always going to be someone over there.
And those two are really good pass protectors.
They are. And if I said Hendrickson got a sack, I think we'd all say I'll take one.
Yeah.
Two, I think I'd go fish on.
Yeah, two I don't want to see because they beat the Browns, they beat the Giants when in that game, they beat the Raiders when he had 4 sacks.
Side note, they beat all the really bad teams.
Yes,
by the way.
They didn't beat Kansas City when he had 2 sacks.
No, because Kansas City's good.
Yeah.
I mean, they have 4 wins against really bad teams.
Right.
I mean, their win-loss stuff is really goofy with some of the outlier stuff with this football team this year is unbelievable. I mean, Burrow's had remarkable games in losses over and over and over. They've scored tons of points in losses over and over and over. The record against the 4 teams they beat is junk. You know, I mean, it's a
They're
lot.
They're 10-34.
Yeah.
The teams that they have beaten are combined 10-34.
But you watch them and think they're scary. They're a dangerous team.
They're scary. They're a dangerous team.
Yeah.
But they find ways to lose.
They repeatedly. The kicker's been bad. That's another problem.
Yeah.
But it's not penalties or hidden yardage stuff.
Yeah,
they're okay with turnovers. You know, it's an odd season for them.
Yeah.
To say the least.
The ball bounces the wrong way. I mean, they have fumbled 14 times this year.
Have they? I mean, I know their plus minus isn't bad, but just in terms
they haven't lost them
overall.
all, but they put the ball on the ground 14 times, which usually not great.
No, that's a lot. What else are you going to say about that? I mean, they're 1-6 in 1-score games. I mean, it should be better than that.
Yeah,
you know.
And the one win was against the Browns.
Yeah,
21-14 again with Deshaun Watson
the
at quarterback.
Watson-led Browns, right? So the
not
garbage
exactly
teams they beat. But like the best team they played, the Eagles, they lost by 20.
Smoked.
Yeah, and that was a game they got crushed.
Yeah, they're not. This is not the team that walked into Kansas City and lost 26-25.
No,
in week 2.
Right, 100%. I don't know what to think about this team. Less so than most opponents, you know. And part of it's because I've had less days to digest them too. But
love their offense.
Love their offense.
Love the weapons.
Yeah.
Don't love the defense at all.
No, love the quarterback. I don't love the intangibles.
I don't love the coaching.
I don't love the coaching. I don't love the special teams. I think there's a lot of frustration just watching their games from afar on Sunday on Red Zone or whatever. Burrow's always not happy at the end, and he has stats galore, and Chase is on board with them. And, I mean, the leader of the organization is Burrow.
Yeah.
You know, and this seems really frustrated.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I can't say I blame him one bit.
No. Let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with Bob Labriola right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and we're joined on the Justin Miller hotline by the Dean of Doom, the Lord of Living in His Fears, Bob Labriola. And Bob, I don't know if anybody's living in their fears as much as you are probably right now after watching the Steelers go up to Cleveland and lose last week, and now they got to go on the road again to Cincinnati this week.
I don't know, Dale. I mean, certainly my inbox is filled with a lot of people who are living in their fears.
That aren't not taking an optimistic view of this, a lot of the people in the inbox?
No, and, what I'm finding is that I think that there's an overreaction. The Steelers did not play well against the Browns. I mean, we could even, go so far as to say that in a lot of areas they stunk. But I don't know that it's a trend.
Right.
It seems to me that that's the leap that everyone's taking. It's a trend. The Steelers now.
They can't score.
They can't score.
Never
they
score in the
can't
red
stop
zone
anybody
again.
on fourth down. They can't make anything on fourth down. They can't run the ball anymore. They run the ball too much on first down. Whatever you want to say, that they didn't do well against the Browns, and there are a lot of things. But now that shows what happened in the Browns game shows that everything is falling apart and deteriorating in all these different categories. And, I don't know. As I said, I thought it was a bad game for sure. But to say that, one of the things I'm hearing is the Steelers are running the ball too much on first down. Well, they didn't run the ball well at all against the Browns, but, say against the Jets, when they ran for 140-plus yards and a couple of touchdowns and averaged over 4.1 yards a carry.
And scored 4 touchdowns on 6 trips in the red zone.
Well, right, but just
lots of good
talking
stuff.
About the running, talking about the running game, they ran the ball 20 times on first down in 36 attempts against the Jets. So running the ball on first down is not a problem. Blocking people when you run the ball on first down is a problem. And, that to me is, what has to get fixed. The basics.
That's actually what concerns me most about the offense. So the questions I keep getting are, red zone. They're so terrible in the red zone. I'm like, it's such a small sample size. Chill out. We don't need to put Fields in the game as soon as they cross the 20. But I do think more consistency in the running game, and many are to blame, is the thing that needs fixed most, that I think is achievable.
Sure. And, to use, since tomorrow is Thanksgiving, I think one of the Steelers' problems with their offense is, instead of worrying about making sure that turkey's made right, we're too worried about the cranberry sauce, and do you use some lemon zest in the mashed potatoes to give them a little bit extra flavor, and, all of that side stuff, the extra toys, as you mentioned, the Justin Fields package. Are we getting Pat Freiermuth involved enough? What about Mike Williams? He's not seeing enough targets. Well, worry about the basic scoring points, running the ball, converting third downs, those kind of things. How it happens, who's involved, who's on the field, are the tight ends involved enough? Are we fooling anybody by throwing a pass to Cordero Patterson on the 2-point conversion play? Again, I too much of that side stuff to me right now. This team needs to, its offensive line needs to open some holes for the running game and protect the quarterback that we decided was going to be the starter. The Jets game was October 20th back then. If he's going to be the starter, well, that's blocked for him then. Give him time to do what he needs to do in the pocket, to find the receivers, to, all of the things that, Russell Wilson does well, pre-snap reads, anticipation throwing, knowing where to go with the ball based on what he sees from the defense at the line of scrimmage, all that kind of stuff. That's what's important. All that other, playing with the toys and sideline stuff, and I don't know, put it away for a while.
Yeah, just go win the game. And that's really, they hadn't done any of the Fields mixing him in there until they played the Ravens. And so we've now seen 2 games of it, and has it worked at times? Yeah. Has it not worked at times? Yeah. But, your offense before that, in the previous 3 games with Russell Wilson at quarterback, looked pretty good.
Yeah, and, here's the thing about the Justin Fields package, in my mind. Maybe you guys can either correct me or, whatever. But you put him in the game, and the few running plays, everybody now knows what those are. And I think it just makes it that much more difficult to run those in those critical situations, possession downs, et cetera, and have them work. So in order for the package to work, you have to continue to expand his menu of plays, because if there is no threat in the defense's mind that he's going to drop back and survey the field and look for a receiver, and throw a pass, then it's easy to defend. And in order for that package to work where Justin Fields, is able to do that, you have to rep that in practice. He's got to get timing down with these receivers on these routes and these plays. And if you're doing that, then you're taking practice time away from the guy you decided was going to be the starting quarterback. Mm-hmm. And it just doesn't make any sense to me that, we're worried about the cranberry sauce. Nobody cares about the cranberry sauce. If the turkey's lousy, it just, I don't know.
No, I hear you. I mean, long week to get back to basics, blocking, tackling, Chuck Noll stuff. I mean, on both sides of the ball, to me, seem imperative. And I bet that's the Tomlin message, over this 10 days.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And, all of the other stuff, the frills and on defense too. Yeah. Stop the run. And if it's going to be a 4-man pressure, well, then let's get some 4-man pressure then. You got to be able to do whatever your menu is, I think, because we're 11 games into this now. The Steelers are 8-3. So this is their 12th game, week 13, based on the bye. And I'm not saying you have to have an identity and you're married to that or whatever. But, one of my complaints about Matt Canada was that, what is your core package? What can you count on? Mm-hmm. Which, when they say it's 3rd and 8 in the 4th quarter and you're trying to protect a 19-18 lead. Okay, what's your best 3rd and 8 play? Do we know what that is? I don't know that we do.
And it's okay if the defense knows, but that's what you do well. Lombardi's power sweep, Knowles trap, whatever whatever your bread and butter is. Right.
And if it's a pass, protect the quarterback. Give him an opportunity to see the field, and wherever the defense is weak or, soft or whoever's open, I'm not saying you got to throw to Freiermuth. You got to throw to Pickens. You got to. No, you don't got to do any of that. You got to get the yardage you need for the first down. And these are the kinds of things that I think that have kind of been lost a little bit for the, looking for the frills and trying to be tricky maybe. And again, offense, defense, whatever we're talking about here. I'm not pinning it on any one side of the ball or whatever. And I get back to being what you were doing against the Jets and the Giants, and because this Bengals team, I think they're going to score. They certainly have the firepower to do so, and their defense is awful.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about that.
We've
talked a lot about that. Here's the thing, Bob. Coming out of that game, and the Steelers offensively weren't great in that game against the Browns. They weren't great defensively against the Browns. One thing they did do, though, Russell Wilson on 3rd and 4th downs in that game was 12 of 13 for 203 passing yards and a touchdown. You'll take that all day long, and a lot of those were 3rd and longs because they weren't running the ball consistently well. He showed me a little something there because I'm looking at this. It's 3rd and 10. They're probably going to be punting here, and lo and behold, he hits a big play, and he did it again, and he did it again. I'm like, he's pretty good on 3rd downs in this game.
Yeah, and when that's going too, I'm going to go back. I'm beating this package drum. Why are you taking him out?
Yeah.
Why? Just because. Why? I don't understand. So, back as Noel always said, back to basics. Ask Wolfley what that means.
Strap on the pads, baby.
Right. I think he's still got some bruises on his body from getting back.
Not allowed to do that anymore. But I would just like to see some of that kind of, and things that work, keep doing them. We don't need a big menu on offense.
I get, Mike Tomlin was talking about you have to have a lot of defense when you're going against Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, because if you do anything too much, they're going to figure it out. Well, hopefully your offense then is capable of doing the same thing to the other team.
Bob, you mentioned the four-man rush a little bit ago, and I firmly believe the Steelers still have the best defensive front in the league, the best defensive line in the league, and they influence the game in ways that sacks don't necessarily reflect, especially TJ. I mean, of course, all the attention he draws. But how about some more sacks? I mean, that's your best component of your team.
Yeah, I mean, and more sacks, and the Minkah thing, I understand that Minkah is doing what he is asked to do, and I also understand that a lot of playing good defense is what you convince the offense not even to try.
Of course.
Okay, I'm very much understanding of that and on board with that. But Mike Tomlin says all the time that, what separates, good from great for defensive backs are takeaways, and what separates good from great for, front seven people are sacks. Mm-hmm. You got to there has to be some big plays made. And, the Steelers are getting some good stuff on the back end from, Deshaun Elliott and Dante Jackson in terms of takeaways. Beanie Bishop, has contributed some, but you need more, and you need them all the time. You need them every week from somebody, Peyton Wilson, whatever, Patrick Queen, whatever, wherever. These are the things that they need, and I don't know. A lot of times I just don't think it comes from scheme or play calls or, a lot of that stuff. I just do believe that it's, that Scouts cliche, it's not the X's and O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes. Yeah, it is. And when it comes to running the ball, Russ Grimm always said, running the football effectively is moving a defender from point A to point B against his will. There's nothing tricky about it. And I was really disappointed in how the offensive line was unable to do that to a Cleveland defense that was not highly ranked against the run, did not have a lot of good games, good production, stopping opponents' running game. I get that they were maybe a lot better than they had played, but I don't know.
Well, to that point, Bob, I thought that the Steelers early in the game were moving the football and didn't turn those into points, and it kind of gave the Browns life. When you've got a team like that and you got a chance to put the foot on their neck, or however you want to say it, go for the kill, whatever it may be, you got to put them out of their misery. You don't want to give them a reason to want to say, hey, we can win this game.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. You're absolutely right. Yeah, you can't not give them hope. And that happened. And then, the snowball, so to speak, started running down the hill.
Then
and it was hard.
Later they start flying out of the stands, because it's Cleveland.
Yeah, sure.
But, again, it was a bad game. I get it. All the criticism that they deserve, in my opinion, for a bad game. But, I'm not drawing any conclusions from this. I'm just not. And there were some factors to me that, playing on the road on a Thursday, short week after a Ravens game, I'm not going to say it's unfair, because that, I think that's taking it too far. But I do think that that's something that should be considered.
Yeah.
It's certainly not insignificant.
The Thursday night game against the Browns could happen here once in a while, too.
Oh, well, you're not allowed to do that. And again, the officiating to me is it's awful every week in different ways. The Beanie Bishop call, I didn't get that. The one Jerry Jeudy third down conversion where he grabbed Joey Porter's face mask and pushed off in order to catch the pass, that wasn't called. The holding on Cam Hayward on Jameis Winston's fourth down touchdown run, that was ridiculous.
Yeah, Herbert got held on that one as well. That was
and then the Hail Mary. I mean, seriously, Newsom just grabbed him and rode him out of bounds.
The whole way down the field.
The whole way down the field.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, Casey's penalty on the punt thing, he was grabbed and pulled out of bounds into the bench, and they called a penalty on him, for that blocking the guy out of bounds.
Yeah.
He didn't block anybody.
Which would have been a massive – I mean, they would have had the football inside their own 20 at that point. It's the Steelers would have had the football midfield again, I should say, because it was a 50 or 17-yard punt. Instead, they moved back inside their own 20.
But they didn't do enough to overcome some of that early stuff. It snowballed again. I keep using that analogy, and how could you not, based on what that looked like towards the end? But as I said, it was an awful performance. They lost. They deserved to lose. Now, let's move on. Get back to doing things instead of worrying about, again, some of the sideshow things that I think a team that has won 5 in a row might allow itself to be seduced by. Okay, that's over now. Let's go back to what it was when this new kind of, I don't even know what to call it, new presentation of the offense. When the decision was made to go with Russell Wilson to try and pursue greatness, let's go back to the things that worked then that he can do well, and let's worry about doing those on a more consistent basis at a high level than adding to it. Because I just don't think more in terms of menu is necessarily better, especially on offense.
Focus on the turkey. So, Labs, forgive me if I don't remember this crystal clear, because I think it was a Sharkies conversation we had. But from what I recall, you had the...
It's a lot of unclear conversations had.
Well, Labs leads are a lot earlier than us. But I recall you having the greatest of respect for Mr. Burrow. You're a big fan?
Big fan.
Yeah.
I personally... I think that he's the best quarterback in the AFC North.
Mm-hmm.
He's the guy. Again, Lamar Jackson is electric, highlights, all of that kind of stuff. But Joe Burrow, to me, plays the position closer to the way you need to play it to be a championship team in the NFL. And the other thing I credit Joe Burrow with, that Lamar Jackson did not do. He didn't have to do, because the Ravens were not in the situation as a franchise that the Bengals were in a situation when Burrow joined it.
Right.
Joe Burrow is, I don't even know if this is right. I'm not up to my nursery rhymes, but Joe Burrow to me is the Pied Piper. He makes all of them believe and follow him. And for the Bengals, in their history, to me, that's significant. So
he's a franchise changer,
Yes, he is. Well, they haven't really won anything yet.
Mm-hmm.
But let me say this: they are much more dangerous with him than, in my opinion, they ever were. Even with
Carson Palmer and those guys.
Yeah. Ken Anderson, even.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, he's an assassin.
So that, yes, yeah. Joe Burrow is. I mean, he's he's ridiculously accurate. He's a tough guy. I would say, I would point to him. If you would say to me, okay, you're going to start a team and you can pick any of the quarterbacks in the AFC North, who do you want? That's who I want. I want him. So, yeah, that's why I'm saying that the Bengals will score. Joe Burrow is going to have success. In my opinion, that's something that is going to happen. And I don't know that it's a statement that the Steelers' defense is lacking if he does have success. I just think he's that good, and he has enough weapons around him to make those weapons. You know, Jamar Chase is Jamar Chase because of Joe Burrow. I don't think Jamar Chase is Jamar Chase with Kenny Pickett, as an example. Well, you know, I'm not ripping Pickett.
I understand what you're saying.
I mean, there's a large difference between Kenny and Joe.
Yes, but what I'm saying is, in that instance, in the Jamar Chase, or let me say this, using a receiver as an example, Burrow makes them, if they're good, he makes them great. Other quarterbacks, you know, may just, take advantage of what he has in a receiver as opposed to magnifying his abilities with the way he plays quarterback, if that makes any sense. So that's why the Steelers' offense has to perform on Sunday. They have to score. I don't know that they win the game without at least 30 points. I think the Bengals' offense is that good.
Our guest has been Bob Labriola, editor of Steelers Digest and Steelers.com, and the Dean of Doom and Lord of Living in His Fears. Bob, we'll let you go. We'll talk to you next week, but have a happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I got the turkey in the oven.
What about the accoutrements? Have you spent a lot of time on those?
None at all. None at all. And seriously, when I sit my fat butt down and start eating Thanksgiving dinner, if you look at my plate, there's a whole lot more turkey on it than cranberry sauce or mashed potatoes or, any of the other accoutrements.
Well, enjoy. We'll talk to you next week, Bob. That's Bob Labriola, editor of Steelers Digest. He's Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. We'll be back with more right after this. And we are back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And I have that Bengals injury report. Again, this is for Wednesday. Logan Wilson with a knee did not practice.
Okay. I didn't think there was any big issues with him, but okay.
Sheldon Rankins with an illness did not practice.
Okay.
So that doesn't sound...
Chances are he plays.
Yeah. Bunch of guys limited. Amarius Mims with an ankle. Charlie Jones with a groin. Orlando Brown limited with a fibula injury.
Okay.
And Joe Bachie, a linebacker, is limited with a hip. And then not practicing because they were resting veterans were T. Higgins and B.J. Hill.
Okay. So Orlando Brown's really the only one I'm kind of teetering
Logan Wilson.
on. And Wilson is new to me.
Kind of a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, he's a green dot guy for them. He's an above-average starting linebacker. I mean, he's a good player,
Yeah. So
those would be two big ones.
Yeah, that's where they're at. And, of course, we don't have a show the rest of the week, so that's kind of where we're at.
You guys are on your own. Check the injury report.
You have to check that out. I'll, of course, tweet them out and things of that nature. That Hendrickson stuff that we talked about before the break, before we got to Bob.
To the crappy teams.
I've been sitting here while we're talking to Bob, and I'm looking at this. I'm going, he had no quarterback hits, no sacks against Baltimore. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He had no quarterback hits, no sacks against the Eagles.
Okay.
He had no quarterback hits. They beat Carolina. Didn't have anything in that game. But the games when they played the good teams, the really good teams, other than the Kansas City game, he's done nothing.
Yeah. Really, really good football player.
No, I love the player.
But I think that's the difference between him and the Watts and Bosa's of the world is even when you go insanely crazy to stop them, they still make big plays. It's less, of course.
Yeah.
They have to run a gauntlet to get there, but they still show up more.
But he's not even a big tackle guy.
No, he's
defensive
not.
end.
He's
I mean,
not. No,
his high this season for tackles is 4.
Okay.
Which is one of the reasons why you can run the ball against them.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just not great against the run.
No, he's not. I mean, he's there to get
Rush the
sacks,
passer.
and he does it really well. The Raiders thing boggles my mind. I mean, like, how do you let that keep going?
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be different if it was DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller, and you have to pick your poison, and I always keep picking wrong.
At some point, if I'm Gardner Minshew, I'm looking over at the sideline going, really? Come on.
Right. Like, if you would have told me, boy, he had 3 sacks in the first half, didn't sniff the quarterback again, but Hubbard had 2 in the second. Okay, at least you made an adjustment. You know, what are you doing?
Yeah. 4 sacks, 7 quarterback hits in that game.
Yeah, right. Come on, man. And it's one weapon. Yeah. You know, and it's a really good one.
Yeah, he's the only guy in town.
Far and away the bright
You saw
spot.
the difference. I mean, say Myles Garrett on Thursday night against the Steelers gets 3 sacks in the first half, 2 against Dan Moore. The other one he stunted and came up the middle.
Yeah.
He didn't have anything in the second half. Mm-hmm. I mean, they went in at halftime and said, we're not going to allow that to happen.
Whether
anymore.
It's something to do with it, too.
Whether,
of course.
Yeah,
I mean,
whether
everyone's pass rush was
But they were throwing
limited.
the ball more in the second half, too.
They were. They were trying to come from behind.
And, you know.
I mean, if other people beat us, so be it.
Right.
You know, but
you can't let that
this,
guy.
Right.
It's
over
the
and over
approach
and over.
that teams have taken with T.J. Watt.
Of course.
We're not going to let that guy beat us.
Right.
You know.
And I assume Cincy will take the similar approach to Watt. I mean, it's pretty low-hanging fruit to say we got to help the rookie right tackle.
Their
Especially
problem
if Brown's
is
in there.
they can't help against Cam Hayward with Cordell Volson.
We haven't talked about that enough. Cam's going to destroy
He's
him.
going to kill him.
I mean, after the performance the D-line had last week, led by Cam, emotionally, leadership, I think that D-line is going to have a really big day.
Oh, nobody gets the pride worked up more than Cam. And,
right.
How about this little stat that the NFL sent out today?
Volson's not horrible, but I mean,
no, but he's
going to
not.
have to deal with Hayward a lot.
Is that in here somewhere? I saw it somewhere. But their run defense, when Cam is on the field as opposed to when he's not on the field,
I didn't see that.
It's like a 2-yard per carry average difference.
I've heard some people that I greatly, greatly respect in the media. Some of the podcasts I always listen to have thrown out there that he's been the best defensive player in the league this year. Number one.
You don't
He's
run
got
the
a pretty strong
You
argument.
don't run the football against the Steelers when Cam Hayward is on the field.
Yeah. And he greatly influences the passing game. He gets his hands up and deflects balls. He chases things down. It's a real short list of defensive players having a better year.
Yeah.
Real short.
And
he's got a real good chance to be first-team All-Pro defensive tackle.
At 35.
Right.
People said he was washed up.
I
Not
was
on
worried.
this show.
I was worried. I
yeah.
mean, I just said I haven't seen it for a while.
You weren't saying
Who
he was
knows,
washed
right?
up, but
No,
there were
not
people
at all.
out there saying, "Oh, you can't sign him doing a contract extension."
No.
That's like, no,
that was a no-brainer to sign him. Right. I'm not exactly sure what you're getting at this point, but I'll roll my dice.
Y'all
roll
bet
the
on that
dice
guy.
on that guy.
Yeah.
Right. Now, this is his best year. That's remarkable.
I
mean, 2 years ago, I said the same thing. I'm like, this is his best year at 33. This is remarkable. He gets better all the time.
It's amazing. At some point, it's not going to happen, but it's not happened yet.
It's unbelievable, yeah. And the leadership and all that stuff, too, has a massive effect.
He always says he has Wolverine blood.
Yeah,
That's why
I know he heals super quick.
He might actually be the Wolverine.
Yeah.
Like, he might be 200 years old and still doing what he's doing.
Just keep doing it and sacking quarterbacks. And, yeah. It's really something.
It's amazing.
He's having an unbelievable year.
Yeah. Let's get to a break. He is Matt Williamson. I'm Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. That's going to do it for hour number 1. Matt and I'll be back with hour number 2 right after this. And welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and this is The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. And, Matt, it is time to put together not one, but 2 DFS lineups because we don't have any shows the rest of the week.
We got a lot to do in the next hour.
I know typically we're here from 4 to 6 every day. Not this week.
Yeah.
Because we're not here tomorrow.
We can put about 5 hours of radio into one here. So let's go.
So let's get rolling
Speed's
here.
the key. Let's go.
Here we go. So we can't do a Thursday, Friday lineup on DraftKings. They won't let you do that.
Okay.
They only let you do Thursday lineup. So we got 3 games here: Chicago, Detroit, New York, Dallas, and Miami, Green Bay.
Are we thinking Montgomery's out?
I think so.
I think so in a short week. Okay.
Defense, special teams, you're looking at the Lions being 3,500, the Cowboys 3,100, the Packers 3,000, the Giants are 2,800, Dolphins 2,700, and the Bears are 2,300. I think the Giants at 2,800.
I was going to take
They're
the
going
one
to get
from
used.
that
They'll
game.
probably get used a lot, I would think.
I was liking the Cowboys or Giants.
Yeah, it's a $300 difference.
Let's
between
go
the
cheap
two.
for now. And
yeah, if we have the money left over, we can come back around to that. Quarterback, Goff is $6,500. Jordan Love, $6,300. Tua Tagovailoa, $6,000. Caleb Williams, $5,300.
That's appealing to me.
That's appealing.
Yeah.
Cooper Rush is questionable. He's $4,800.
Yeah,
Tommy DeVito questionable. Doesn't look like he's going to play.
Yeah,
He's $4,500. Drew Lock ended up starting that game at $4,500.
It doesn't appeal to me, though.
I think Caleb Williams.
Caleb Williams is of the four real quarterbacks.
He'll run,
the cheapest. Too. He's been running a lot, right?
Yeah. All right, that's easy enough. At tight end, Jonnu Smith, $4,300.
People are catching on.
Sam Laporta, $4,100.
He's got some injury stuff. I think he's playing, though.
He has no injury designation.
Yeah.
Jake Ferguson is $3,900. Tucker Kraft, $3,700. Cole Kmet, $3,600. Luke Schoonmaker, $3,400. Ferguson is questionable.
There's several I like there, but I would go Kraft for the buck.
I think so, too. I mean, they're 22nd. They're the worst of the teams playing this weekend.
Against the tight end.
Against tight ends, yeah. So Tucker Kraft is an easy pick.
Side note, Bengals are really bad against the tight
Really
end.
bad.
Yeah.
Really bad. Extremely bad. Running back, Achan is $7,700. Jahmyr Gibbs, $7,500.
That game's going to have weather. It's definitely going to be cold, but they think snow in the second half, which doesn't excite me about Achan.
Josh Jacobs, $7,000. Montgomery is questionable, but he's $6,500. DeAndre Swift, $6,000. Tyrone Tracy, $5,800.
Not bad.
Rico Dowdell, $5,500. They're both bad against the run.
I was going to say, I like both those guys, and if we're going to go big, I might want to go on Gibbs.
Let's see what we have left after the wide receiver. Let's plug Tracy and Dowdell in there for now.
Because you could always put expensive flex.
Yeah. At wide receiver, we can average 6,700 here now.
Yeah, I bet we have money to spend.
Amon-Ra St. Brown is $8,000. CeeDee Lamb, $7,300. Malik Neighbors, $7,100.
St. Brown's my favorite of the top three.
Tyreek Hill, $6,900. Jalen Waddle, $6,100.
I don't mind Waddle.
I'm sorry, that was Javonte Williams at $6,100. Jaden Reed, $5,700. DJ Moore, $5,600.
Okay. He's getting much more involved with the new
We get that little stack there. Jalen Waddle, $5,400. Keenan Allen, $5,100. Roma Dunzier, $5,000. Christian Watson,
Waddle's my favorite.
$4,900.
I mean, I know he's under budget, but
well, if we go Waddle,
we're gonna have some.
Now we can average 7,100. I like Neighbors this week, actually.
Do you?
I do, because they completely ignored him in the first half of that game last week. Then they threw six. He caught 6 balls in the second half. Then he popped off after the game. I can't throw the ball to myself. Had a meeting with the head Dable about it, and I would expect them to try to get him involved early and often.
I mean, like the first 6 weeks of the season, he was getting like a 35% target share.
Yeah.
I mean, the targets are bonkers.
And
I won't fight you on Neighbors.
And I think if Locke plays, I think it does help Neighbors.
I think he's a better player than DeVito.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that gives us an average of 7,200 to spend here. So we already have. Do we start DJ Moore? Who do we think is?
That would be my bear.
Yeah, to stack with Williams. That leaves us 8,800 for a flex. And
is that Gibbs or St. Brown?
Yes, and we'd still have money left over.
Who do you prefer out of Gibbs and St. Brown?
I think Gibbs.
Me too.
And we have $1,300 left over, so we could pay up at tight end. We could pay up at on defense.
I wouldn't mind bumping the defense, but it was only like $300.
To the Cowboys?
Yeah, just because of sacks.
Okay, so that
we started with the Giants, right?
Yeah, that gets us. I think Dallas wins that game.
I do too. It's kind of what I was leaning towards.
Yeah. Now we could also
Giants get sacks too.
We could also bump up Tracy or Dowdell. We could bump up. I don't want to mess with Williams. We could bump up Tucker Kraft. See what that.
Who are the top guys though? Laporta was number 2.
That would get us Jonnu Smith.
Okay. I'm a little worried about having 2 pass catchers in what might be a snow game. In the second half.
That would get us any tight end that we want, basically. I kind of
What kind of running back would it get us from Tracy or Rico Dowdell?
Let's see. Dowdell is 5,500. That would get us up to Montgomery, DeAndre Swift.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a move to make.
Tracy, moving up from Tracy, who, again, that gets us, it doesn't quite get us. Well, here's the thing. If we go back to the Giants' defense from the Cowboys' defense,
yeah, which I'm fine with. They'll get sacks too.
We can get the Josh Jacobs
from
either one. Either one.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
And have Gibbs. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So, moving on, going back to the Giants' defense, and then at running back, that gets us Josh Jacobs, and we still have $100 left over.
Book it.
So that's Caleb Williams at quarterback, $5,300. Josh Jacobs at $7,000. Rico Dowdell at $5,500. Jalen Waddle, Malik Neighbors, DJ Moore at wide receiver, $5,400, $7,100, $5,600. Tucker Kraft at $3,700 at tight end. Jahmyr Gibbs in the flex at $7,500, and the Giants defense.
I'm fine with it. I bet there's some chalky ones though, but
probably.
Yeah.
I mean there's only
small sample size.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only 3 teams or 3 games.
You almost you have to.
There's going to be overlap.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to our Friday through Sunday lineup.
This is not Monday.
This includes just hold the whole. Yeah. No, this includes Monday too.
Okay.
All right. So this is the rest of the weekend. Chiefs defense is $3,700 against Vegas. Buccaneers are $3,600. The Texans are $3,500 against Jacksonville. Commanders against Tennessee are $3,400. The Broncos are $3,300 against the Browns on Monday night. Vikings against Arizona are $3,300. The Seahawks against the Jets are $3,200. Chargers against Atlanta, $3,100. The Steelers against the Bengals are $3,000. The Bills against San Francisco, $3,000. The Ravens against
Purdy's going to play.
I think he is. The one that we liked the other day that we were talking about, the Colts against New England is $2,800.
I'm trying to rack my brain. I think that's a good start.
$2,800. That's a nice, cheap defense that.
And frankly, we don't have as much time to discuss this stuff as we usually do.
But we talked about that part earlier in the week. Quarterback, Lamar is $8,000. Josh Allen, $7,800. Jalen Hurts, $7,700. Jaden Daniels, $7,200. Burrow, $7,000. Steelers number 1 against opposing quarterbacks in terms of fantasy points allowed.
They don't allow rushing.
Mahomes is $6,800. Mayfield against Carolina is $6,600.
That's not bad. I really like how he's playing.
And Carolina can score.
Right. You're not going to just sit on the ball in the fourth quarter.
Stroud against Jacksonville, $6,400. They're 32nd against opposing quarterbacks.
Coming off a bye, though.
Bo Nix against Cleveland is $6,300. Purdy is $6,200. Kyler Murray against Minnesota, $6,100. Kirk Cousins against the Chargers, $6,000. Darnold against Arizona is $5,900. Stafford against New Orleans, $5,800. Jameis Winston against Denver, $5,700. They're 4th against opposing quarterbacks. Russell Wilson, $5,700. They're 29th against opposing quarterbacks.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Drake May against Indianapolis is $5,600. Justin Herbert against Atlanta, $5,600. Do we go back to that well again?
It seems crazy not to.
$5,600.
He's throwing a lot.
Now, the problem is they didn't run for any touchdowns last week, but they don't have any running backs left. J.K. Dobbins is out.
I kind of liked Baker, and I kind of liked Stafford, too, but Herbert's too cheap.
Okay, he's got to throw a touchdown this week, though.
Yeah.
You got to better do that. But I think Atlanta will throw enough successfully to keep them throwing the football.
Mm-hmm.
At tight end, Kittle, $6,200. Brock Bowers, $6,000. Trey McBride, $5,800. Do you know he hasn't scored a touchdown this year?
I know, but he gets so many targets. I still think he's too cheap.
Kelsey is $5,600. Njoku, $5,400. Taysom Hill, $5,000. That ain't bad.
No.
Dalton Kincaid, $4,900. Evan Ingram, $4,800. Kyle Pitts, $4,600. Cade Otton, $4,500. Carolina is 32nd against opposing tight ends.
I think people are shying away from because Evans is back, but Otton is Godwin.
Godwin, yeah.
I like that one. I like McBride and I like Otton.
Hawkinson, $4,400.
He looks so good. I mean, he is back.
Dallas Goedert against Baltimore is $4,300.
They might
Devonta Smith is.
Yeah, I was saying.
He missed practice today.
Throw in that game. The problem with the Eagles receivers, they just don't throw the ball enough.
Yeah. Well, they're not going to run super successfully, I wouldn't think.
Right?
Yeah. I kind of like Otton there.
I like Otton. I like Hawk. I like Goddard. If you're going to go cheaper.
Yeah, because I want
to. Any of those are fine by me.
I want to pay up for some studs at receiver.
Okay.
Do we go Hawk? He's cheapest of that group.
He looks phenomenal to me.
All right. Hawkinson is at $4,400. At running back.
I also might consider Justin Jefferson as a squeaky wheel candidate.
Yeah, that might happen.
They're going to really pay up.
Saquon Barkley, 8,500. Christian McCaffrey, 8,200. Joe Mixon, 8,000. Derrick Henry, 7,800. Kamara is 7,700. Breece Hall, 7,500. He's questionable. I think he plays, though. Bijan Robinson, 7,300. Kyron Williams, 7,200. James Cook, 7,100. Kenneth Walker, 7,000. Jonathan Taylor, 6,900. Chuba Hubbard, 6,700. They are 25th against opposing running backs. It's all Carolina.
They're good at run the ball.
Yeah. James Conner, 6,600. Aaron Jones, 6,500. Nick Chubb, 6,400. Pollard is 6,300.
It seems cheap for Jones and Pollard.
They're good matchups.
Having really good years.
They're good
I don't want to
matchups.
be super invested in the Vikings.
Yeah.
But
Chase Brown is 6,200. Najee Harris, 6,000.
if Chase Brown gets every touch in the backfield, I don't care who he's playing.
Kareem Hunt is 6,000. Ramondre Stevenson is 5,900.
It's not bad.
Bucky Irving, 5,800.
I'm really become a believer in him, by the way.
They threw him the ball last week.
I know.
5,800
taking
for him.
over that.
The problem is that the other guys also are in the mix.
He was tackled at the one, I think, twice.
Yeah. Jaylen Warren is 5,500. Jeremy McNichols, 5,400. Ekeler's probably not playing. He went to the hospital after that.
I mean, he wouldn't be at 5,400 if they thought he was playing.
White is 5,300. Tank Bigsby, 5,200. Kenneth Gainwell, 5,100. Now we're getting into some backups.
We're getting pretty lean here. There were a bunch in the Bucky Irving neighborhood I liked. Ramondre.
Let's plug Bucky Irving in now at 5,800 because
I'm fine with that.
That was too cheap.
I think he's taking the backfield over little by little.
Yeah.
He's clearly their best guy. In fact, I liked Chase Brown. There were a couple right ahead of him that were a little more expensive.
I'm looking
Jones.
here. Where is he? Is Pacheco on here? Because Pacheco's back.
He's going to play.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want nothing to do with Kareem Hunt.
He's 6,200. That's too much. Because I don't think he gets a
injury, right.
I don't think he gets a full workload. If he'd have been cheaper, that would have been interesting. I mean, we can average.
How much is Dobbins?
Dobbins is 6,800, but he's hurt.
Or Gus.
Oh, I don't want Gus. He's
the
cheap.
only
He's
show
cheap
in town, right? I think.
I think
they're
they'll
cheap.
Run some of those other guys. I mean,
Vidal's all right.
Gus Edwards is 4,300.
Okay. I don't really
you
like
need him
the
to
player.
fall into the end zone for that to matter.
There were a lot of ones that were more in the Irving range that I liked.
Yeah. I mean,
Aaron Jones. I like
Sean
Chase
Tucker
Brown.
at 4,500 would make almost as much sense because he's one of the splits and How about Pollard at 6,300?
Pollard is a name
that is right on budget.
He's having a really good year.
Yeah.
And he's kind of game script independent.
Either him or Aaron Jones at 6,500.
Both have been great. They both catch the ball. It doesn't matter how the game goes.
We can afford both. All right. Wide receiver. Chase is 8,600. A.J. Brown, 8,300. Justin Jefferson, 8,100. Nico Collins, 7,900.
I say when we talked about Stroud, I would rather go Nico than Stroud.
Puka Nacua, 7,600. Cooper Kupp, 7,400. Terry McLaurin, 7,100. Devontae Adams, 7,000. Garrett Wilson, 6,900. George Pickens, 6,800.
Not bad.
Mike Evans, 6,700. T. Higgins, 6,600. Drake London, 6,500. DK Metcalf, 6,400. Get the Jetso. Cortland Sutton, 6,300. Jackson Smith and Jigba, 6,300.
Both those are appealing.
Yeah, if they're the Jets are number one against opposing wide receivers. I don't want to play a wide receiver, an expensive wide receiver against the Jets.
I'm a little shocked they're one.
Zay Flowers, 6,200. Debo Samuel, 6,200. Khalil Shakir, 6,100. Ladd McConkey, 6,100.
I'm a believer.
We stack him with Herbert. Yeah.
Put it in.
Like that. Marvin Harrison is 6,000.
Wow, it's cheap.
Jerry Jeudy, 5,900. He's probably going to get – they're playing Denver.
Oh, I don't love it. Right.
Yeah, he's former team. They're not going to let him beat them.
Oh, no.
Tank Dell.
I was saying Harrison's cheap.
Yeah, 5,900 for Tank Dell. A bunch of guys are questionable. That would be Devonta Smith, Calvin Ridley, Darnell Mooney. Brian Thomas is 5,500.
Lawrence might play.
Yeah.
I like that one a lot.
Hopkins is 5,500.
He's a part-time player, though.
Yeah. Juwan Jennings is 5,400.
Goal line, but
Jacoby Myers 5,300.
He's consistent. He gets two guys get targets in that.
Yeah. Jordan Addison is 5,300. Amari Cooper 5,200. That's kind of been out of sight, out of mind for Amari Cooper.
And he's coming off a bye. You'd think he's ready to really
go.
Contribute.
Yeah.
I don't dislike that.
Michael Pittman 5,200. I mean, if we go Amari
Downs is out.
We go Amari Cooper at 5,200.
Yeah.
We can then pay out. That's going to allow us maybe to get another stud wide receiver in the lineup.
Okay. I'm fine with Cooper there. There were some dudes that I like Myers in that neighborhood as well.
That leaves us, we can average $6,800 for the last two spots.
Is there any stud that's just jumping off the board, are you?
At the you mentioned Jefferson at wide receiver. I can't imagine they allow him to not catch the football. Nico Collins is attractive.
We're pretty tied into the Vikes, but Nico and Jefferson were the two I liked best at the top.
Let's go Nico. He's a little bit cheaper. That leaves us $5,700 then to spend on our flex. Let's see what that gets us. Travis Etienne, Calvin Ridley, Austin Eckler, Darnell Mooney, Travis Kelce, Jaylen Warren, Brian.
Recall Ridley's gotten $1 million.
It gets us Brian Thomas.
Oh, I like that.
Boy, I'd like to know if Lawrence is playing though. He still had last.
It doesn't always matter with him.
Last game out, he had 5 for 82.
Right.
So
I mean, he's their best guy, and they realize he's a future. And I would think coming off a bye, you feed him.
I'll plug it in, and we have 200 left over.
Is there a defense we like slightly better? Or
let's see. The Colts are 2,800. That gets us up to 3,000. That gets us to Steelers, the Bills, the Ravens. That's it.
How about a tight end that's slightly better? Because I knew there was a couple clustered.
That would move us up from Hawkinson to Kyle Pitts, Cade Otton.
If you like Otton better, great. I don't like Pitts better.
Yeah.
We could diversify a little bit more that way instead of hitting the Vikings so hard.
Well, we only have Aaron Jones.
We didn't end up with Jefferson. Okay.
Yeah.
That doesn't bother me then. Do you like Hawk or Otton?
Because one way or the other. So if we go with Otton, we also have Bucky Irving in the lineup.
True. I mean, I don't mind going heavy.
Do we want to pivot? Do we want to see if we can pivot off of Bucky Irving?
One of those backs maybe you could look at who's a little cheaper.
That would get us up to 6,000 because he is still a part-time player. Mm-hmm. That would get us Najee Harris, Kareem Hunt, Ramondre Stevenson.
Stevenson's the only one I'd consider of that group.
And then we're playing him against our defense.
I know.
Not that matters, but
Gibson's been getting more involved too.
Yeah, he has.
I mean, he's had a lot of work.
I kind of like Bucky Irving better.
Yeah,
just because of the matchup. I don't have a problem with it.
Who's the other back? We have Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones, Bucky Irving, are our running backs.
Okay, well, let's just eat the money.
All right, I'm going to lock it in. That is at the quarterback position, Justin Herbert, Bucky Irving, and Aaron Jones at running back, Nico Collins, Amari Cooper, Lab McConkey at wide receiver, TJ Hawkinson at tight end, Brian Thomas Jr. in the flex, and the Colts defense.
Okay.
We are locked and loaded.
There we go. That was a speed round.
Absolutely. Getting through two lineups and talking it through. But we got to get to another break. That's going to do it for the Fantasy Football Focus. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And, since we're not doing shows tomorrow or Friday, we got to take a look at all the games this week to figure out who we're picking in these bad boys. Looking at tomorrow's games, Chicago Bears 4-7 against Detroit at 10-1. The Lions favored by 10.5. The over/under 48.5.
I like the points.
I'll take the points too.
Yeah, I mean, if we lose that one, I think we lose it by 30 points. I mean, like they just keep the accelerator down and blow everybody out on national TV, which they tend to do. But I think the Bears keep that close.
Short week and
division game.
Game. What didn't we just see one of those?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that the Bears are going to win this thing outright, but yeah.
Williams has played a lot better with coordinator change. I mean, they have talent.
You get the Giants at 2-9 are at the Cowboys at 4-7. Dallas favored by 4. The over/under 38. 4 is a tough number.
I was hoping that would be 2.5.
I like the Cowboys to win. I don't know if they win by more than 4.
I just think Thanksgiving in Detroit and Dallas is important to those teams, and the Giants are in a really bad spot. So I'll lay the 4 very reluctant.
Yeah, that Giants team looks like they may have quit a little bit.
Yeah, and it's not a bad time to eat during that game, too.
Yeah. Miami at 5-6 is at Green Bay at 8-3. The Packers favored by 3.5. The over-under 47.
I absolutely want the points in a big way if I knew it was going to be reasonable weather. I know it's going to be cold. It's Green Bay. It's late November, of course. But I like how the Dolphins are playing. If it turns into a snow game and all their speed gets relegated, though, or goes right down the toilet in the second half, then that bet could be in big trouble.
I like the Packers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that hook, that over 3.
Just not a – Dolphins aren't a physical team. The Packers can play physical football.
Well, they can.
Friday, 3 o'clock. The Raiders at 2-9 are at the Chiefs, 10-1. O'Connell's in the starting spot for the Raiders. Chiefs favored by 13. The over-under 42. Remember,
I can't go 13.
The Chiefs lost to the Raiders last year in a standalone game on Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, because they treat it like their Super Bowl, and Chiefs don't beat anybody by 13. I think they win.
I think they win too. I can't bet on Aiden O'Connell though.
I mean, I'm not putting my hard-earned bucks on it. Don't get me wrong, but I think they could keep it within 13. Garbage time.
Yeah. This might be an under game.
Could be.
It's 40. I could see the Chiefs winning like 27-14 or something like that, right on the number, and
20-14.
Yeah,
and just controlling the game.
Moving on to Sunday, the Cardinals at 6-5 are at the 9-2 Vikings. The Vikings favored by 3.5. The over/under 45.5.
I'm going to take the Vikes. That's a good number, though.
It's a good number.
Yeah.
I might take. The Vikings have been they haven't played well the last 3 or 4 weeks. They've squeaked by.
I don't have a ton of confidence.
The Cardinals did not play well last week.
No, but I think Seattle's pretty decent. I think the Cardinals' offense is better than it showed.
Yeah,
for sure. But that's not tough. That's going to be a tough place to play and a tough defense to play against. I'll take the home team.
I think the Cardinals win it outright.
Yeah,
I do. Houston at 7-5 is at Jacksonville 2-9. The spread is Houston by 5.5. The over/under 43.5.
That implies to me they think Lawrence is playing. I know Houston's not playing well, but man, Jacksonville's secondary and pass defense is very problematic, and I still believe in Stroud and Nico and those guys.
Yeah, I like Houston.
Yeah,
I think the Jaguars, even though they're coming off a bye.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I don't think
the first question last week at the press conference is coach getting fired? I'm sure they were asked that all week. Is your coach getting fired? They know the coach is probably getting fired.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like the bye week was fun.
No. The Chargers at 7-5 are at the 6-5 Falcons. Chargers favored by 1.5. The over/under 47.5.
I think it's gonna be a really close game.
It's a physical game that the Chargers just played Monday night.
I just don't think Atlanta's a physical team at all.
Coming back on a short week, traveling across country.
I know it's tough. I'm shocked they're favored.
Falcons coming off a bye. This is not set up well for the Chargers. I think they lose a shootout.
I think you convinced me, but the physicality and stuff really favors the Chargers. But they're coming off a tough situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take the home team.
Indianapolis at 5-7 is at New England at 3-9. The Colts favored by 2.5. The over/under 42.5.
I think they win by more than that.
We took the Colts defense. We think the Colts defense is going to win this game.
I mean, if it's a lot of Richardson and Taylor running, I think you can control the game.
Yeah. Tennessee at 3-8 is at Washington at 7-5. The Commanders have lost 3 games in a row. The Commanders favored by 5.5. The over/under 44.5.
I'll take the points. I think the Titans' D is legit. The weirdest stat line ever with Levis because
he throws almost as many touchdown passes to his own team as he does to the other.
Yeah, and there's so many bad plays, but 90% of his game was the best he's played all year.
Yeah.
I think Washington's a little in rocky waters right now.
I think the Commanders win this one, though.
I wouldn't shock me. I'll just take that many points. I thought that was going to be like 2.5, 3. I was shocked to hear that number being that big.
Seattle at 6-5 is at the Jets at 3-8. Jets coming off a bye.
Mm-hmm.
Seattle favored by 1.5. The over/under 41.5.
I hate such a long road trip to a home team coming off a bye, But I think Seattle's a lot better than the Jets.
I can't pick the Jets. Yeah, I'll take Seattle.
Okay.
I just can't pick the Jets. Tampa Bay at 5-6 is at Carolina at 3-8. Tampa Bay favored by 6.5. The over/under 46.5.
I have no problem laying that number. I think their offense is playing really, really well. Carolina's a good story. The last 3 games have been great, but I think they're several rungs below the box.
See, I think you can run on Tampa Bay this year.
Yeah.
And that's what Carolina wants to do. There's also the Canales factor in this one. He knows what they want to do offensively. He knows. He coached that team last year.
Those guys, right.
I think they come up with something and keep this within the 6.5. I don't think they win, but I think they keep it within the 6.5.
I thought that was going to be over a 7. So when I heard that, I'm going to lay the points.
The Rams at 5-6 are at the Saints at 4-7. The Rams favored by 2.5. The Saints have won 2 in a row. The over/under 48.5.
Take the Rams reluctantly. I just think that if you can't really have a great pass rush against Stafford in that passing game, that they're going to get their points no matter what. And I think they'll be okay in that.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how the Saints stop their offense.
It's going to be a problem. Yeah.
Whereas the Saints pass catchers don't really threaten all that much what the Rams
really
do.
Light.
Kamara is good, and Hill.
Yeah, he's good, right?
Hill could be a factor, but yeah, I think the Rams win that one.
It could be a sneaky over game.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. I mean, it's only 48.5, which is high, but
I bet it's in the 50s.
The Eagles at 9-2 are at the 8-4 Ravens. Baltimore favored by 2.5. The over/under 50.5.
I just want points. I'm not sure who's going to win. I really think that's a total coin flip game. But I have the Eagles power ranked ahead of the Ravens.
The Eagles' offensive line has gotten better and better and better. And it's no coincidence that when you do the power rankings, Detroit's number 1 and Philadelphia is number 2.
Sure.
Might be the 2 best offensive lines in the league.
Oh, yeah.
Especially now that Mulata's back.
And that travels and all that good stuff. I still have concerns about the Ravens' pass defense. I think A.J. Brown could have a big game.
Saquon's playing out of his mind right now.
It's fun that Saquon's playing Henry, too.
Yeah.
You don't think about running back matchups, but considering their off seasons and how good they've been this year, that's pretty fun.
I think the Eagles win that one.
I lean that way, but if you're going to give me points, I lean heavily that way.
Yeah. San Francisco at 5-6 is at Buffalo 9-2. The Bills favored by 6.5.
I don't think that's enough.
The over/under 45.5.
Purdy might play, but I don't know about Williams. I don't know about Bosa. If so, they're heavily compromised.
It's going to be cold. Weather could be a factor up there.
Buffalo should be really healthy after the bye. 2 weeks to prepare for a Shanahan system.
Cooper's back. Coleman's back.
Yeah, I like Buffalo big in that game, and then I think you bury the Niners.
Yeah, I think so. 6.5 is a good line, though. That's a big line.
It's a big line for a Niners-Bills game.
Yeah.
The people might have picked the Super Bowl, matchups.
Absolutely. The Monday night game, Cleveland at 3-8 is at Denver at 7-5. The Broncos favored by 5.5. The over/under 41.5.
I think Denver's clearly the better team, but I think Cleveland's, again, an average football team with Winston.
I like the points.
I do too.
5.5 is too much.
I absolutely believe the same thing. It's just that defense might turn him over a few times.
They might.
Yeah.
I mean he might throw.
Yeah. Could and probably will. I'm not 100% on the Knicks train yet either.
Yeah.
He's impressive, but
Denver can't run the football.
Yeah. And I know their line's good, but Garrett's going to give them problems.
Yeah.
I'll take the points.
Yeah, 5.5 probably too much. If that was 3.
I thought it was going to be more of a field goal type game.
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be a ton of points scored in the game.
I don't think so either. The over/under is 41.5. They're just saying that they don't expect a lot.
They're going to beat them pretty heavily then.
Yeah.
I don't see it that way.
No, I don't either. So
I think the records are not indicative of where both teams are at today.
Yeah. No, I would agree. Matt, that's all the games except for one.
Except for one.
We rolled through those ones pretty quickly.
Well, we had to put it in fast forward a little bit.
We did. We didn't get to talk about them as much as we typically do. But there's some interesting ones there. Obviously, the Eagles-Ravens game, a huge one for Steeler fans.
Absolutely. And we'll get to it, but the Steelers beat the Bengals. Boy, that
puts Baltimore
really puts them in a damper.
And that game's the Baltimore-Philadelphia game is the 4:30 game. That's the national game.
Oh, so everybody get a chance to watch that too.
Yeah, they'll have an idea of what's going on in Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. So keep that in mind. But let's get to another break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back to finish up the show, make our pick in the Steeler game right after this. Welcome back to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and the time has come, Matt, for us to make our picks on Steelers-Bengals this weekend. Steelers, 3-point underdogs in this game. Kind of surprised that is the case. The over-under on this one is where'd it go? I lost it here.
Yeah, I haven't even heard yet. I have my score in my head, and I'm not going to change it because of the over-under.
46.5.
Wow. My score ends up being 47 together.
There you go.
Huh, all right. I didn't know that.
So I think you picked first last week, so I will go first this week. So I'm just looking at the Bengals stats from this year.
They're alarming in a good and bad way.
So their defense has allowed 290, 286, 356, 375, 520, 309, 336, 397, 217, 389, 435. Now, they allowed 217 total yards in that game to the Raiders.
Yeah.
And still gave up 24 points.
Wow. Red zone defense is terrible.
Red zone defense is awful.
Yeah.
They gave up 286 yards to the Chiefs and allowed 26 points. Mm-hmm. They gave up where's some of the other good ones? Okay. They shut down the Giants and they shut down the Browns offenses. Whoop-de-ding-dong. But you can score on these guys. Mm-hmm. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be a 450-yard day to put up
points.
A lot of points.
Yeah.
You can have 300 yards of offense and still score 30 points against this team.
Yeah,
because
there's a lot of people settling for field goals. Right.
They just don't do it. Yeah, they just don't settle for field goals against this team. The Bengals are going to score. And they're going to throw the ball around, and they're going to do all that fun stuff. Here's the thing. If they don't get turnovers, if you don't turn the ball over against them, there's no path to victory for them. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that Russell Wilson has done well, by and large, is protect the football. Steelers running backs, by and large, don't fumble.
Yeah.
They're not a high turnover team, but they get turnovers. They're number one in the league at 22 forced turnovers this year. I just think the Steelers win this one. I think if they would have won in Cleveland last weekend, I was picking the Bengals in this game because it's a tough gauntlet to run. But I don't see them losing 2 in a row in the division. I got the Steelers winning this one 27-24.
I have the Steelers winning 24-23.
Okay.
A lot of the similar things. I think 10 days off after a semi-embarrassing division loss doesn't sit well with Tomlin and Hayward and Watt. And, you go to Mike Sando's column on Monday morning, and he has like 6 headlines, big things that happen around the league. I think one of them is going to be Steelers' defensive line wins this game. And I expect the defense to play an uncharacteristic amount of cover 2. And if Cleveland, death by 1,000 paper cuts you, so be it.
Or Cincinnati.
And it might be one of the rare games that the Steelers don't win time of possession, and that's okay because we're just putting an umbrella on things. And, hey, front 4, you go against their 5 or 6, and if you can win, we're going to win.
Yeah.
Because we know they're going to move the football. We can't allow explosives. But if you guys can make big plays against their big people, which you're highly capable of and you're well compensated, as Coach likes to say, to do so, we're going to be in really good shape because both teams are going to move the football. I think the Steelers will run enough. I think Freiermuth could have his best game of the year. I don't see a wonderful answer for Pickens. But I don't think it's 33-30. I think the Steelers' defense is too good for that.
Yeah, I think if you're the Steelers, you don't want to play this game in the 30s. And even though the Bengals
lose those games, uncharacteristic rate. But yeah,
but that's their path to victory. They're 0-1, 1-1.
You don't want to trade haymakers with these guys.
2-2. They're 2-3 in games when they score 30 or more.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a path to victory for them. Their other path to victory, they're 2-1 when they hold the opponent, or 2-1 when they hold the opponent under 20 points. Well, they're not going to hold the Steelers.
They rarely do
They held
yeah.
the Patriots.
Yeah.
They held the Giants, and they held the Browns with Deshaun Watson at quarterback
to under 20. Steelers' offense is better than that.
Yeah. In those games, they lost 16-10, they won 17-7, and they won 21-14.
Mm-hmm.
They want to play that, a little more close to the vest, but you can't let them do it. But this is not the Steelers have a league average offense,
which usually translates into the 20s
against this team.
Yeah,
I mean,
if not more.
Yeah, the Raiders scored 24 against them. Now they lost, but they scored 24 against them. Kansas City put up 26. Washington put up 38. The Panthers put up 24. Baltimore scored 41. Philadelphia had 37. The Raiders had 24. The Ravens had 27. And the Chargers had 34. Like, you're going to score points against these guys.
Yep. So, I know you know this stat. I don't think we've said it because it's such a short week, and I don't think the game's going to go this way, but it's still pretty crazy. The Bengals have lost 3 games that they've scored 33 or more points this year. The rest of the league combined has lost 2. Yeah. I mean, like, that's how this season, that like epitomizes this season for
They
them.
do just enough to lose.
Just enough to lose, even when the offense is awesome. When kicker advantage is massive for the Steelers. He's in the 70 percentile somewhere.
Yeah,
like
it's one of those years for him.
Like
yeah.
that. He's really been bad. And one of my critiques of the Steelers right now is you're getting to third down way too much. You're not having enough success on the early downs. I don't like how much they're running the football on second and longs, but I don't think there's going to be as many second and longs.
Yeah, you don't
know
need
what I mean?
to.
I think the first down, second down, you can churn out 8 to 10 yards with a lot more consistency.
I would play a little more backwards in this one if I'm the Steelers. I come out throwing.
I have no problem with that at all. I mean, just trust your quarterback that's been around the block. We're not going 4 wides and playing big.
No, you don't have to do that. But I line up in one of the things that Arthur Smith and one of the things that people say about him is he'll show you something, but he'll run something different off of it. Like he'll come out in 13, but he's throwing.
Yeah. I'm fine with that approach. Almost treat Freiermuth like a wide receiver.
Yeah.
I mean, he's out there being big, but Washington's going to be out there being big on Hendrickson. You know what I mean? So. And I also think when I get down to the goal line, I want to see Washington, Freiermuth, Pickens, and Williams. That's some serious beef, And
yeah.
I do think there'll be a lot less conversation about, boy, the Steelers' red zone offense is terrible on Monday. Or,
and they go 3 for 4 or something like that in this game.
Or just have a normal day or an above-average day against a bad or a bad defense that has some injuries. It sounds like their corners are pretty problematic, and I would think the Zach Frazier's and McCormick's of the world are going to move their D tackles. We haven't talked about the rest of their defensive line very much. There's some names you guys know, but they're all having down years.
Yeah,
and
if they
none
weren't
of them are great anyways.
If they weren't in this division,
yeah,
you probably wouldn't know about them as much.
Yeah, if you didn't play them twice a year, and those guys, Hubbard and those guys have been Bengals for a long time, so we've seen them. Burrow will get his. I don't know that he'll throw for 350 though, and I do think he'll take some shots, some hits.
Yeah,
is what I mean by that. And he's gonna have to be patient if they do take the approach, I think, and just kind of put a umbrella over the back end of the defense. You can mix in Minka with some funky stuff here and there too, some robber stuff. I don't feel super confident about picking a win, but I think it's gonna be a close game.
Like I said, if they hadn't lost last week. I probably would have picked Cincinnati in this one, but I can't see them losing 2 division games in a row.
Yeah, the teams that you're probably better than.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the leadership on the team, the physicality in the trenches, long week, should be in your favor.
Yeah, you just have more across the board. You're the deeper, more talented team than the Bengals.
Way fewer weaknesses.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bengals' weaknesses, unfortunately, are all on one side of the ball for them.
And I think the coaching advantage is real.
Oh, I do too. I mean, Taylor to me is okay. I mean, I think he's made some adaptations over the last couple of years to help his football team, but he doesn't move the needle. I mean, frankly, the fact that It's like the Penguins getting Sid Crosby. Like, you happen to be the worst team in the league when a phenomenal quarterback landed in your lap, and it changed your franchise. And that, great.
And then the next year you were still bad, and you got Jamar Chase.
Right,
yeah.
you got his buddy. You know, I mean,
got his whoopee.
Yeah, and that's a remarkable foundation. It's probably the best receiver. It is the best quarterback-receiver combination in the league right now, especially mixing Higgins as a 2. They're going to be a problem.
No, there's no doubt. They're going to be a problem. I think the Steelers' offense is going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Like in most games, the Bengals have a huge advantage in terms of their stars at wide receiver.
Yeah.
This could be a game where people look at this and go, George Pickens might not be as good as those guys, but he's in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how the Bengals are going to stop him.
I would put Pickens over Higgins. I wouldn't put anybody over Chase at the moment.
Right. You know? No, I wouldn't either.
Right. Another nugget about Chase is he has the most yards after the catch of any receiver in the league. I just think the Steelers tackle really well. They have a lot of team speed. If you're playing some too high, you can limit that stuff. I don't think he'll beat you after the catch. He might catch 8 balls for 95 yards and a touchdown.
Can live with that.
I'm okay with that. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, you just can't let him go nuts. You can't let him do what he did to the Ravens in that game. And, you have one guy to stop because Higgins wasn't playing.
Again, it's been a short week. I don't think Porter travels with him.
I don't think he does either. I think they go left-right.
Yeah, just to simplify things. Again, I don't think you're trying to confuse Burrow all that much. I think it's going to be a very vanilla defensive scheme and just keep your checkers battling their checkers. And I can live with 24 points. I can live with 20. I can't live with 30.
Right. Now, I think, you want to force them to punt or kick field goals. Mm-hmm. Anything that ends with a non-PAT for the is a win.
Yeah, and maybe they miss 1 out of 3 field goals. History kind of shows that he's not on top of his game right now.
Yeah, and so kickers get in their own heads. Mm-hmm. It's like a golfer with his swing. He's a little off, and then you start tweaking stuff, and then now you're really in your head, and it goes south.
Yep. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a pivotal game, especially for the Bengals. They lose.
They're done.
I don't think they have a chance to win the North either way.
Right.
But another conference loss, I'm not even talking about divisional
would
loss.
Be their 6th, and they're pretty much done.
That pretty much cooks you.
Yeah.
The Colts are favored. Miami could win. The teams they're competing with, Denver and the Chargers, a couple of those teams will win.
Yeah.
So you're in really uphill climb if you lose this game.
Because you dug yourself a hole. Went 0-3 to start the season.
That's why the line is what it is. That since he needs it more. It's kind of win or go home.
And I still don't think that Vegas necessarily believes in the Steelers, especially after losing. There are Steeler fans that don't believe in this team.
And
I got it on our message boards on YouTube this week. This team's so inconsistent. This after they had just won 5 games in a row.
Yeah.
That's consistency.
I think we said this yesterday. It was like, if I phrased it like this, folks, they won 5 of their last 6. You'd be like, that's pretty consistent. Just happens to be the last one they didn't win. Oh, now they're terrible. It's just what's the taste in your mouth.
That's the way it goes.
Yeah.
But, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. We hope everybody enjoys their holiday. I hope they all get to get together with the family and friends and celebrate the holiday. I'll still be working. Steelers practice tomorrow. They practice on Friday. We just won't be doing a radio show, but you can check out all of our work.
Monday.
We'll still have all of our good stuff that comes out on the Steelers.com website. Matt will have his stat package. Mm-hmm. I'll still have my 5 for Friday and all that good stuff. And then, of course, you can follow along with the coverage from game day on Steelers.com as well. But for my partner, Matt Williamson, for Justin Miller here running the Justin Miller Hotline, and for Tyler Vittmeyer making sure this video, we didn't have one yesterday, but we did today, gets out on YouTube. You can leave all your comments there and, let us know how stupid we are again or whether you agree with us. I'm Dale Lolley. We appreciate you listening to this edition of The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network.
Steelers football happens here. The Pittsburgh Steelers Audio Network.